Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy Stern, and I would like to welcome you to this really wonderful platform that I've created to share with you amazing resources that we have in our community to support you through your journey of grief and loss. And I am so excited to have someone very special and dear to my heart with us today. I'd like to introduce to you Erika Anderson, who is a spiritual medium, intuitive healer. She is a nurse. She is an acupuncturist. She is a mother, and she is one of my very best friends. And I am so happy to have you here with us today, Erika. Welcome.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here and talking to you. I have so much respect for what you do, and so it's an honor to talk to you today.
Well, the honor is mine. And considering you are probably the number one asked for resource with the community that I sit with, so many people have interest and curiosity about what you do and how it might support them in their grieving process. So this feels just right to have you here today. And I'd love to have you share a little bit about, what led you on this path and what is it that you do?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll answer that in a couple of parts. What I do is I work as an evidential medium, and what that means is that I have the ability and the calling to expand myself outside of my mind and this kind of human state of being, and I allow my spirit to expand. And I'm able, through that practice, to connect with loved ones who have passed away, who have crossed over out of the human physical realm and that are now in their spirit bodies, where we all go when we cross over. And so I am a medium and I'm able to connect loved ones to their loved ones who are no longer here in physical form on earth. It sounds pretty wild. It sounds pretty fantastical. And yet, it is, for me, the most basic, the most natural work that I've ever done in my entire life. It's like an extension of who I am instead of an action or a job. It is literally, it feels like as natural to me as hugging my child to activate and reside in this place of my soul. And through my soul, through my spirit, I am able to connect to other spirits. And it has been a calling through a traumatic experience, a traumatic series of experiences I went through when my son nearly died. And there's quite a long journey to what happened and what transpired and what transformed through that. But I think the basics of it is before that happened, I've always been what's been coined as a highly sensitive person. And for me, that highly sensitive aspect of myself, I didn't know that I was constantly feeling energy and spirit and emotions of people on this planet and people on this plane and people off of this plane of existence. And so it led me into this lifelong journey of deep seated anxiety.
Mhm.
And when my son had his near death experience and everything changed in the blink of an eye, um, I started realizing that I needed to face that anxious part of myself. And through finding myself through meditation, everything started shifting. And what was highly sensitive and highly anxious became this awareness that I was actually able to feel, experience, and communicate with people in spirit through energy. And that was the point, the whole journey of my life. And I had no idea until um, I went through so much trauma and then realized I needed to start healing that trauma.
Mhm. Wow. Thank you for sharing. What brought you on this path? I've heard your story, but I'm so happy that everyone else gets to hear. And I think there's a couple of really important pieces I want to kind of reflect and also invite you to expand upon. Okay.
Okay.
One thing that I think is so powerful about this conversation for that we're bringing to so many people who are going through their own loss is both that you've been through your own grief, you've been through your own journey that helped illuminate and open you to this gift that you had all along, but that it took something to kind of uh, turn the dial or open the door for that to happen. And I think that's something that a lot of you out there might relate to. When we go through big events, it can open us in a way that other abilities and gifts we have begin to come through. So you had an experience that really led you to know this calling and to step into this calling and to bring it forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a common thread I see for a lot of people who go through trauma and grief and are faced with this raw, vulnerable aspect of themselves. And so, what happened for me is I was faced with this. I had nowhere to run anymore. I had nothing else I could do to occupy my time or to busy my brain. I had had a life of constant overachieving to try to balance a lack of worthiness with high functioning anxiety. And so when everything came crashing down, I had nowhere to go. And in that spot, as I was standing, literally looking at a mirror of myself, I recognized at that time I didn't know who I was anymore because I had been so busy trying to be anything but who I thought I was. And I started recognizing that if I didn't find myself, if I didn't find the quiet space inside, I was going to lose myself. And I would not have been of service for my family. I wouldn't have helped my child who now has a lifelong chronic illness. Thank God he is with us, and I'm so grateful for that. But I realized that in order for me to truly live, I had to face the part of myself that I had been hiding from for so long, that had so much shame. And so, what changed it all for me was literally surrendering to everything as it was in that moment.
Mhm.
I had to surrender to complete lack of control. I had to surrender to a state of experiencing life that I hadn't planned for, that I hadn't recognized, that I didn't understand where it was going to go or who I was. And I saw for the first time in my life that the only way for me to do that was to surrender, to slow down, and to breathe. And so, in that breath, I started meditating, something I never thought I could do. And when I started meditating and my whole world got quiet, it was a slow journey, but it was when I started hearing spirit or those in spirit knocking on my door saying, "We're ready to help you with this journey if you're ready to step on it." And that's how my whole life started transforming.
Ah, I mean, so powerful, Erica. And I think what you're speaking to is is something that we talk about in the mindful grieving world as like grief and trauma being a catalyst for your own awakening, a catalyst for your own journey of self-discovery, ultimately leading to self-love. And what I
Mhm.
hear is that you found yourself through the process. You learned to love yourself and you got to see all the ways you were abandoning yourself or not seeing yourself, covering it up with busyness, all the things that we do. And it took this big event to kind of pull all that away and bring you face to face with yourself. And when you started to meditate, and that part was number one, so there's so much wisdom in you that led you to that moment to get quiet and to get
Mhm.
still, which is like the opposite of what we want to do when we're anxiety. So I want to normalize and just acknowledge these very human tendencies we have to distract when something is painful, to busy ourselves when we're feeling anxious, to keep moving because it's too uncomfortable to stay still. And so what you did was not only wise, but it was incredibly courageous to be able to listen to the part of you that knew you had to stop and be still and then lean in with meditation, which is, in my experience, the greatest tool we have to meet our grief, to face ourselves ultimately. Um, and it's a practice.
And
Yeah.
And it's a practice. And I will say, I got there kicking and screaming. I would have literally run uphill in the opposite direction if I could have done something that I would have thought would have taken me there in a different way. That's how much I didn't ever think I would be someone who could meditate. But that meditation is now something that I crave. I crave feeling the stillness of my soul, and I crave feeling the quietness of just my energy. And because of that, I was able to start differentiating my energy and other people's, what I was carrying for myself versus what I was picking up from others. And that's how the journey of self healing began, of recognizing what anxiety was and what it wasn't, as well as the journey of stillness and the journey of acceptance and the journey truly of self love.
Yeah.
Because when I sat with myself finally, I started recognizing like the gentleness of my heart and the beauty of my spirit and the uniqueness of who I am. And I stopped trying to hide it.
Hmm. So beautiful. I mean, your experience of almost losing your beautiful son helped you to recognize your own worthiness and your own value and to lean into that love. And we're so lucky that you did that because it's led you on this path where you now do this powerful work that you do. And I think
Mhm.
it's so important that that everyone's gotten to hear kind of where you come from and to see that you kind of we all sit in a circle together. We're all human and we all have this whole internal thing going on that we have to work with and that, it was through your path. It was through some really hard moments that you were able to kind of step in and to claim, in a sense, your gift and to be able to share that. And I'd love to invite you to talk about like what spiritual mediumship is like if someone here were to want to explore this, to feel closer to a loved one or to just work with their own questions or wonderings or just perhaps need for connection. What would that look like to work with you and to explore that together?
Yeah, well, it's such a powerful experience and such a humbling experience for me to witness what happens. And I am a part of it, but my personality, the energy of me steps back, and I really am a witness to the love that people have for each other and how it continues to evolve and continues to grow, even when one person is no longer in physical form. And it's changed my life in the way of seeing the miracles of communication and the evidence that life continues on. And so when I sit down with someone for a mediumship reading, the 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 intention and the goal, if you could call it a goal that I have, is to facilitate a communication through love. And so my purpose is to connect and open my awareness to the person sitting in front of me. So the client, usually a person in some level or stage of grief, who is looking for some sort of connection with a loved one or multiple loved ones, and I don't know anything about this person. I don't want to know anything about their story. I want no part of my brain activated. I want everything that happens to come through my heart and through my spirit so that I know it's authentic spirit communication. And so someone will come into a room or into a Zoom room with me, and I'll introduce myself and explain how a mediumship reading works. And basically, what I'll say is that I'm going to open my awareness, I'm going to open my psychic senses to those people who are in spirit that are around you because they are not with me, they're with my client, right? And so once that happens, I'll say like a short opening prayer, not with a dogma or not with any sort of, it's not Christian, it's not Jewish, it's not Buddhist. It's a prayer that I say to open my energy and space for the highest and greatest good to happen and only love to be the mode of operation through any communication. And then one by one, people in spirit start making themselves known to me. Sometimes I can see them with my eyes. Sometimes it's like looking through a screen and I can see them as like a spiritual form that you can almost see through. Other times I can hear them and I listen to their voice and they tell me what they want me to say. But the whole point of it is to communicate evidential messages of them being around my client. And so everything that comes through is with the point of my client knowing that their person is following along with them in their lives. So often they'll tell me their name, like my name is John and I'm here. This is my mother that you're talking to. I want to talk to my mom. Or they will tell me how they passed, or they will share with me what their mother, father, sister, brother was doing right before the reading began, to make themselves known so that they can allow the person that is receiving the reading to have trust
Mhm.
and confidence with who we are talking to. And that's why I don't like to know anything about who is sitting in front of me or who has passed, because I want my client or my person receiving the reading to have full trust and faith and awareness that this is an evidential and 100% legitimate spirit connection, because we've been taught our whole lives that all we are is this physical, concrete aspect to ourselves. And we are so much more. And that's part of what this journey is that I've discovered in my path, is that part of my purpose and part of what I'm here to offer is to connect people, to bridge the different realms so that everybody understands that life continues on and our physical, our mind, our egos, our stories are just the smallest picture of our whole experience in life.
And I can't tell you how much that means to someone who's grieving. I just have to say,
Yeah.
say this from a very personal perspective. I did some mediumship work myself really soon, actually, after my son Noah passed away.
Mhm.
And it was profound. It was like I needed to feel him. I knew that he was there. Like I knew. And I needed that evidence. Like I needed the reflection that what I was feeling was real,
Mhm.
because there was nothing more important to me then. And almost 18 years later, still nothing more important to me to know that he existed and that his life and death had meaning,
Mhm.
that I could still connect him, and that what I was feeling in my body when I felt him was real. And so
Yep.
to have a medium help affirm that and help me feel him in such a direct way and help me feel close to him and finish the conversations that I didn't get to finish.
Yep.
It allowed on a personal note, a sense of closure. Not that I was like okay with it, but it started to lay the groundwork for acceptance to happen. And
What I've seen is it lays the groundwork for acceptance and it lays the groundwork for belief and for hope that life continues on. And in a mediumship reading, one of the most profound aspects of it is I am communicating with these beautiful people in spirit who want to talk to their loved ones and help set them free in some way, shape, or form. And it's different for everyone. But one of the most potent things in a mediumship reading is for the person receiving the reading to feel the essence and the energy and the even the personality of their loved ones. It's tangible. And so there's something healing in just that tangible sense of experiencing their loved one again. Even if I'm the bridge and I'm the one communicating the messages, I'm not the energy that stands out. It is the energy and the force of the person in spirit who is communicating. And that is something that is remarkable, even to me after years of doing this.
totally. And I think that word tangible is like kind of the key word here. Is
Mhm.
like it get because one of the hardest things around losing a loved one is your senses are deprived. It's no longer tangible. You know they're there. You know that somehow, maybe. And you can't smell them, you can't touch them, you can't hear them. Your senses literally go into like deprivation because they can't connect, even though the soul is there. And so, what you're offering in this beautiful, like healing gift is to be that bridge to allow us to tangibly feel the love. And we talk a lot in this community around love being the other side of grief and love being an expression of grief and grief an expression of our love, like it's a two-way street. And
Mhm.
that when you speak about your readings and being an expression of that love or bridging the gap and helping people feel that love, I mean, what's more beautiful than that? And I think at the end of the day, when we're grieving and we are craving and longing for connection with a loved one, that what we want to feel the most is that love. Um, it's a real beautiful thing that you offer to.
Yeah. And that is the goal. That is the point of doing this work. And everyone is ready for it at different phases. You know, I do want to speak to that because there are some people like you, Wendy, you spoke to very quickly being ready for a reading. And there are some people who are wanting to jump into that space right away, and there can be great healing that comes in that. And there are some people who it might be years and years before they can handle the experience of maybe even, and you can tell me, you can reflect on this for me. What I imagine would be hard is having someone else communicate to your loved one for you.
Mhm.
And so I feel like there's an experience of that that is hard. Some people have been conditioned to think it's bad or that we're getting in the way of these people in spirit of doing the work that they're doing on the other side. When from my years of experience in doing these readings now, is that when people come through, they come through with the greatest love I have ever felt in my life. It changes me every single time I do a reading. And all they want for their loved ones here on earth is to be able to heal and to be able to take the next step of their day in some sort of grounded way so that they feel the tiniest bit of passion or aliveness again. And that is what I've seen happen over and over again, whether it's 10 years after someone has crossed over or if it's 6 months or 6 weeks. It's a miracle every time.
Yeah. And I think, part of this is you doing your job so skillfully that, when you ask me the question of, is it hard if someone is like the in-between of the speaker? My experience of you is that you actually aren't in the way because it's not your personality, your beliefs. You're not interjecting your own
Mhm.
opinions or persona. So you do a beautiful job of really being a conduit, really allowing those conversations to happen. And I think the timing that you're speaking of is so different for everyone. And there's absolutely no right or wrong. Some people may never want that. Maybe it's just not what you want, right? Or you're curious and it's not time yet because, like what Erika said, it's just too hard. It's too close still. It hurts too much to
Mhm.
feel them in that way. And whatever your feeling or belief is what you listen to and trust. But
Yeah, and some people, what I've found is they're just so worried that their person in spirit, their loved one, won't show up. And I've never had a reading where the loved one in spirit didn't show up, ever.
Mhm.
They always show up. And sometimes they show up in a way that's different than what we're expecting, but they always want to facilitate healing and it happens.
Mhm. Beautifully said. And if the intention is to create connection and to bring forth an expression of love, then that's what's happening here. And
Yeah.
again, it's for each person in their own time and in their own way, and
Hmm.
and when they maybe feel called, if they do. Um, so I'd love to invite you to talk a little bit about how we can find you. If someone's interested in doing a reading or learning more, how can we find you?
Yeah, well, my website. So my website is spiritualmediumerika.com and it's Erika. And so all of my offerings are on there. Um, I love to help guide people and teach people into accessing this part of themselves as well. We are all able to do this. It's harder when you're in grief, and it's harder when there's such a constriction that sometimes happens with grief, but every single person is made of the same formula. We're all based in spirit. We're all based in love, living in this human incarnation at this time. But in the core essence of each one of us is the soul, is the spirit. And so each one of us has the ability to connect with our loved ones on the other side. So I do offer readings, and I also like to teach people how to access their own intuition and their own awakened state of spirit. And then I have a podcast, and I love to talk about the intuition and spiritual awakenings and healing. And so sharing my journey and others. And that's Spirit Portal podcast, and it's on all platforms. So, but yes, I really feel passionate about what I do. And I feel really passionate about empowering other people to recognize and remember that this is something that you can do too.
Hmm. Beautiful. Well, I will make sure that everyone has all the information they need to find you to both consider a reading, but also stepping in and pursuing their own gifts and learning from you, learning with you how to access this. And I think it's so powerful to remember, for all of us to remember that we all are made of this material, as you said, and we all have this ability and potential within us, and that with support and guidance that it's something to explore and to be used as a source of healing, which comes through loud and clear in everything you say and in how you live your life. Um,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for having me so much. And yeah, we're all from the same source. We all return to the same source. And all we ever really want is to love and be loved. And I feel blessed that I can be a bridge in that experience. So
Yes. Well,
thank you.
you're blessed that you are too. And just a shout out to everyone. This is a powerful, powerful resource that we have in our community. And Erica, thank you so much for sharing with us what you do and how this may serve, you know, someone out there who's going through loss and looking to grow and to find their way into closer connection with their self through the journey. So,
Mm, my pleasure.
mm.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Bye, Wendy.
Bye, Erica. Bye.